Today's episode of Doc and Jock is brought to you by Score, a new mobile app coming to you this August. Score is an interactive game that lets users win deals at bars, restaurants, based on what's going on in live sporting events. Find new places to watch games and save money on your bill. At the same time, by taking advantage of Score's unique interactive specials that give an additional stake in the action. A Score special can be anything a location wants it to be, from 10% off of an item if the team scores a touchdown, or a free round of drinks if the quarterback throws for 400 yards. Any stat can be turned into a game. Pick the deals you want to win, watch the games you want to watch, and score deals in real time. The app will update when your team or players record a relevant stat. When the conditions of your deal are met, the coupons are sent to your device to show your server or bartender. It's that easy. Score is coming to the App Store and Google Play this August. For more information, check them out on the web at score/app.io or follow them on Twitter and Instagram at ScoreDeals. Score, watch games, score deals.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Thank you for downloading another episode on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. You're listening to Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John McAroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
So I just switched over to Sling TV, and this is kind of new in my life. I've cut the cord. I'm one of the many millions of people who have finally cut the cord. I told DirecTV to go fly a kite. I said, I'm done with you. Remember a couple years ago when Jim Harbaugh first took over Michigan and we were watching the Michigan game together but not together? Like we were watching it and we were tweeting each other back and forth like a bunch of weirdos. And you remember when it kind of started to rain a little bit and then my whole TV screwed up and I missed large portions of the game? No more of that for me. None whatsoever. I got myself a Roku, got myself hooked up with Sling, and I'm going to be honest with you, man. It's only been a couple days. So far, really impressed with it. The wife initially was a little bit cold to it, and then I went to work in the afternoon because, I worked that crazy split shift. Ended up going to work in the afternoon, came back home a couple hours later, and when I came home, she was like, this is really cool. So she kind of warmed up to it. She's still a little put off because some of the shows that she wants to record, the DVR doesn't necessarily work with it. But, dude, cut the cord. I'm excited. On top of that, I'm excited to save a bunch of money every month on my cable bill.
So how does this work now with Sling and Roku combined? Because for me, like everybody knows, I've been with Dish Network for the better part of 15 years, and the relationship has been great in that whenever there's a problem, whenever there's an issue, yes, the biggest thing that people will say when you have a satellite dish is when the weather's a little bit bad, the dish does go out a little bit. But at the same time, it really only happens at most 5 times a year. You would think that, because it rains so much in Michigan, that it would go out a lot more. But the signal strength is pretty good, and Dish has been great to me. They've given me so much free programming, so many great memories. I enjoy the price, but I can understand where people are saying, look, when you compare what I pay for entertainment and for the satellite dish versus what you can pay for Sling and Roku, the difference is almost 80%. I could literally, I'm sitting here, and I could save 80% off of my cable bill if I went to Sling and Roku. And I'm just sitting and I sit here and I go, wow, why am I crazy enough to keep doing it? But at the same time, for me, I've gone with Dish Network. What was your complaint with DirecTV that made you go, forget it, screw you guys, I'm out?
So I absolutely loved DirecTV initially.
Great sports, great everything.
It had everything you wanted. I mean, it had every sport package you could imagine. It had, the customer service was exceptional. I thought they were outstanding. I thumbs up on everything. I absolutely loved them. I thought they were great. And then AT&T bought them, and I started to notice little things. The moment AT&T bought them, the customer service totally changed, and it went downhill. And that really put me off. I was like, are you serious? I mean, I was with them for over 12 years. Anytime I had an issue, anytime something went crazy, I would just call them. I'd say, hey, this is kind of the deal. And they would be like, okay, well, what can we do to help? And then we'd try to figure something out, and they would end up usually crediting me something, or I'd get like a free channel for a little bit or whatever. I mean, I even went through 2 layoffs, like completely lost my job. Like my jobs were sold out from underneath me, and I was laid off, and I had to go find a job and collect unemployment. And when you're collecting unemployment, you don't make any money. You know what I'm saying? You're lucky to be able to keep your head up above water. So I would call them, I'd explain the situation to them. They'd sit there and they would basically put me on a much lower plan while allowing me to still keep most of my channels and keep everything the way it was. And it would just allow me to sit there and kind of muddle
They worked
through.
with you. Awesome.
Yeah, they were great. It was exceptional. AT&T stepped in, all that went away. So then I started to notice little things. I noticed that my bill was just kept going up and up and up and up. Originally when I got it, I ended up having 4 receivers. I had the dish, I had the insurance, and I initially, when I first got it, I got the center ice package. So for 3 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year, my bill was a little bit higher than it normally was, but my bill was never over $100 when I initially got it. And I loved that. I thought that was great. And I had a bajillion channels, and I watched almost all of the bajillion channels. And then most of my channels started kind of getting dialed back or cut out, and then I had to let go of the center ice package, and then my bill stepped creeping up. By the end, my bill was $150 a month. I called, I complained. They sat there and they gave me $10 off my bill. So now my bill is $140 a month for like the next 4 months. And I was like, that's not really helping me at all here. Like, this is ridiculous. So I started looking into getting a Roku. I was looking at maybe an Amazon Fire Stick. I was looking at different ways to stream television. And I was looking at Sling TV. I was looking at YouTube TV. I was looking at, I don't know.
View, PlayStation.
Yeah, PlayStation View. I was looking at Fubo. I was looking at all of them. And in the end, it just seemed like Roku is the way to go. It gives you a device where you can sit there and you have basically access to a library of channels that you can stream everything and anything, whether it be movies, television. You can stream stuff offline like YouTube. If there's an anime, like I'm really into anime. I'm a total geek. If you ever listen to DR2M, you can hear me talk about all kinds of nerdy stuff. You can stream anime if you want, like the most recent episode of Dragon Ball Super that's out there, you can get it straight from Japan with the subtitles, and it's awesome. You can just rock and roll with it. So I was like, all right, well, this seems like the way to go. So I went to Costco, bought myself a Roku, and then I decided that I was going to go with Sling TV. Now, Sling TV's packages start either at $25, or I believe it's $35, or you can combine the 2 packages and spend $40. That's what I did. You get all the channels that way. On top of it, you got to pay $5 extra for a DVR, so you pay the $5 for the DVR, and then what you can do is you can pay an extra $10. And let me tell you about this. This is what I did, because I'm a sports junkie. Paid an extra $10. I now get NFL Red Zone. I get NHL Network, which I didn't have before with DirecTV. Have the NBA channel. Didn't have that before with DirecTV.
All the sports channels that are NBA,
NFL,
NHL,
Network,
NFL,
MLB.
great.
I had both of those.
Yes.
On top of that, I get all the Big Ten channels. I get all the Pac-12 channels.
Longhorn Network, all that good shit.
Every single college sport channel, I get all of them. Yes. I get like an extra 15 sport channels that I never had before. Blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. And then I bought for like $10 more, you get like 4 sub packages.
Yes.
So by the time it's all said and done, my bill's like $65. And it's all channels that I'll actually watch. Like when I had DirecTV, I probably only watched 10 channels because that was all I had.
Exactly.
Now I've got 85 channels, and I'll watch all of them.
And everybody knows what's coming. And so technically, you didn't cut the cord, you cut the wire. Now you're going through streaming, so the service is brought to you by the internet that you have.
Yes.
So you have good internet, it streams high-quality stuff. You don't have to worry about rain outages or nothing like that. But this is where television is going, in that I do believe Dish Network, DirecTV, other cable subscribers are going to have to do it a la carte. You pay $2 for every channel that you want, and you stick with us, and you keep it moving forward. That's how it's got to go, because that's the reason why people are cutting the cord, is that I don't need 250 channels. I just need like the handful that I like, the 25 or so that I'm down with. If you charge me $2 or $3 a channel, then we can go with that, and I could pick a la carte. Where some months where CNN pisses me off, I cut them down. Maybe that also could improve broadcasting, where channels know that, hey, we're doing things that aren't really helping the marketplace, or we're doing things that aren't helping our customers. So when ESPN starts going all political, or they start leaning one way, or not providing the content that people want, people cut the cord, and they realize this is what a free market society looks like. And so I think that's where television is going in the future. And good for you, man. And the way it works for me is similar, in that I pay the Dish Network bill, and with that, I have a Roku that I get to stream here at the office. So I do like it. It's not bad. I have like 25 megs here of streaming, so that's why it's a little bit slower than I would like. Whereas at home, I got 75 megs, and it's like heaven. I can stream YouTube, Netflix, WWE Network across different devices. So you got to be around 75 megs of internet to be pretty satisfied. And I got to research to see what's even faster because, for me, I'm always like 4 years behind. I never got to get on the internet until college. Didn't get my first cell phone until like iPhone 4. So that's
when you were in high school.
No internet
for your porn. Were you flipping through
I go to my
Playboys?
No, I go into.
You did have that collection.
I go to my boy's house and he'd have the AOL and they'd be chit chatting and I'd be like dialing up and learning what is this internet all about? I didn't get cable. We didn't get cable in my house
till for a picture for 15 minutes to come.
It's pretty good. So that's where I'm at, where things are around for about 4 years, then I get into it. So it's really cool. I'm happy for you. It's definitely much better than paying $150 to beat your head against the wall. And it does go to show you that, unfortunately, when a company goes corporate, you start to lose a little bit of that friendly customer service. And I hope we never get to that point. Or at the same time, if we do get to that point, we'll just make you the customer service guy because it seems like you're more of the line in terms of dealing with people a little bit more friendly than I would be. I'd just be like, oh, well, you know what? Unfortunately, due to your status, just cut us off and we'll keep it moving. Yeah. But unfortunately, it sucks because DirecTV had such a great reputation.
Yep.
And what I do like, though, about the competition between Dish and DirecTV is when they're battling each other, they just drop the hammer. They're like, "Are you?"
Dude, they post such nasty propaganda against each other.
It's great. They're like, if you sign up with DirecTV for that low price, they're going to jack you for a much bigger price in 2 years. They're going to take advantage of you. And then whenever the Dish has some channels that are leaving, DirecTV, like within 4 seconds, has ads like. Yep. Are you going to lose your CNN from Dish Network? Come over to DirecTV where we got everything here and we never lose our channels. It's like, this is great. I love the negative recruiting and the negative ads, similar to politics. But no, good for you. I do think this is why people like a free marketplace, and this is why people look at this concept for healthcare, for really anything, in that if there was no competition, you would be beholden to DirecTV and you'd have to deal with the man. Now you have options. You have another way of looking at it, which in turn is going to force a company like DirecTV to improve. Dish Network will improve to respond to people dropping off in droves. But right now, Dish Network has a lot of subscribers in the millions, in the tens of millions. So it's one of those things where, when you have competition and you have the ability to look elsewhere, good for you. That's what you deserve. $65 to $70 to get more channels and to be more comfortable is something that is awesome, and I'm proud of you for doing it.
And here's the thing. DirecTV did try to keep me. They offered me $60 off my monthly bill. I believe it was for the next year.
Wow.
But still, at that point...
Wow, that's nice. That's good, though. That's nice to try.
It's a great last-ditch effort. And that was only because I was like, look, I'm going here. And they were like, okay, well, this is what we can do. We can give you $60 off. And I was like, I'm still coming in cheaper if I go the other way. So why am I going to stay? And they were like, yeah, you kind of got a point.
Before we start talking about the Tigers... I do feel a little bit slimy because from time to time, I'll just call up Dish.
Oh, you got to.
I just call them up for no reason. I'll be like, look.
My stepdad does it all the time.
Yeah, you just call up there and I feel bad because I'm genuinely, really, for the most part, a nice guy. It takes a lot to push me to get mad. So sometimes I'm like, okay, let's see what I can do. I'll call up the Dish and be like, look, I love you guys. I've been with you for 15 years, but... there's this guy knocking on my door every day with DirecTV, and he wants to offer me cable for $40 for the next 2 years. Anything you guys can do to help me out? Because I'm thinking about cutting the cord. And they're like, whoa. Okay, we'll give you HBO Showtime for the next 6 months. And I'm like, okay, thanks, bye. And I take advantage of it.
That's all you got to do, dude. That's all you have to do. You just got to mention, like, hey, look.
I do it 3 times a year. It's great.
That's it.
I do feel slimy, though, but I'm like, damn, they do it. And it's great, isn't it?
Honestly, at this point,
that's what competition does.
My stepdad has Dish as well, right? My stepdad and my mom have Dish as well, and he absolutely loves it. He thinks it's great because he does the same thing you do. He'll sit there and every 3 to 6 months, he'll call them and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. I can get charter cable out by my house, and they're basically offering it to me at $40 a month, and I only have to sign a 1-year contract. And what are you guys going to do for me? Otherwise, I'm going because there's no point for me to stay when I'm paying all this, and I'm going to get more channels, and it's going to be a better deal for me. And they're like, oh, okay, well, this is what we'll do for you. And next thing you know, he gets like a $45 or $50 credit to his bill, and his bill's essentially cut in half.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's unbelievable because they know that they're making so much money that they can cut the bill and still be very profitable for all the stuff but at the same time, it does suck though when channels like Fox News or CNN or NFL Network, like last year's preseason, when they do start getting to that heavy negotiation, it does kind of suck because you do notice the bill goes up a little bit whenever these channels start demanding. But Dish Network does a great thing. They have their own channel, and they say, look, we are trying our best to keep costs down. If we add this channel for the price that they're asking, it's going to force us, because of what we're paying, to put the cost onto you. And we try our best to keep it within a certain percentage. So they're very transparent, and they have this channel flowing 24 hours a day where you can keep checking in. And the CEO seems believable to me in terms of what he's saying, is that we don't want to raise your bill, but if we pay NFL Network what they want to charge us to put this channel on our network, we're going to have to incur the cost back to you guys, and we're trying our best not to. So they cut off the channel for damn near 2.5 months, and they're transparent. So for me, at this point in time, I'm willing to pay for the Dish Network. I'm not unsatisfied. I have lots of hours of stuff saved on the DVR, but it is something here at the office. I don't have cable. I stream it through the Dish Network at my house, and I definitely can understand where I don't want to pay $150 for cable for the office. I can stream it and get and you get like niche stuff too. Like there's the Man channel, Aviation channel through Roku. You get, like, at the time before the poker went to pay, you had a poker channel 24 hours. You get niche type stuff. So it's a new way of broadcasting. It's fun.
That you want. They've got different categories set up for you. And the one thing I do love about it, especially with Sling, is when you set up your DVR to record, it'll like automatically record the show for you. Like you don't have to, like before with DirecTV, you would have to sit there and worry about it either recording and the programming still going on. You'd have to sit there and you'd have to set up the DVR to record like a half hour to an hour after if it was a sporting event, or you'd sit there and sometimes it just wouldn't record at all because of some glitch in the system. Now with Sling, it just sits there and it automatically records it. Monday Night Raw, I always record it because I usually miss the last hour on Monday night because I have to go to bed early. It totally set it up, and I just hit record, and next thing you know, it recorded like the next 11 or 12 minutes that happened after the hour, the top of the hour, and it worked out perfect.
Now, before we talk about the Detroit Tigers, all the trade rumors, what's been going on, my experience at Comerica Park on Tuesday, just want to say a quick word and thank you to those that have been following us, subscribing, all the great comments that we get at our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast is powered by Score. Check out the new app that is going to debut in August. But I do want to say it has been so fun to debate all the things that come up with everybody that messages us. I know there's this thing going on with writers and other sites where they say, don't at me. No. We go with the complete opposite. Whatever we put out on our Twitter page, at me 24/7. I read it. It might take me time to respond, but anything for the better part of 4 years that has been sent to us, I've read and liked or responded to some. I've retweeted. We love it. Like when the USA Today tried to run that bullshit telling us that the Lions are going to win 5 games, our Twitter page blew up. And when Justin Verlander rumors are happening, when the Tigers games are going on, we have the most fun. And the reason why I think we're crazy enough to do it is there's a great response on our Twitter page, and I just always want to say thanks. And it makes it really fun to just shoot the shit with the fans and the supporters, and it's been really great. Like, literally, I do feel like we're in touch with what the fans are thinking, and they debate. And the best part of my day is when I'm not even included, meaning that people tag us and have their own debates back and forth with each other, and we're included, so we get some free pub, and it makes it really fun to do. So it's amazing. Follow us on our Twitter page. I believe the most interactive sports Twitter page in Detroit, at Detroit Podcast.
2 things about all of that. Even when we sit there and we post something out there that you don't like or you don't necessarily agree with, come at us and just kind of make your point, and we'll go back and forth. We'll have a nice conversation. I sat there, I didn't really agree with the Tomas Tatar signing, and I sat there, put some things out there. I had about 5 or 6 people sit there and laugh at me and jump all over me because one of the things I don't like about Tomas Tatar, even though he's a winger, he still has to take some faceoffs, and I don't think he's good enough in the dot. And I made that point, and a lot of people crushed me on it because they're like, he's not a center. I understand he's not a center, but there are times when he's going to have to take a faceoff, and especially on a power play, he's got to win that draw if the centerman gets tossed out. So I feel like he should be a little bit better at doing that, and I got murdered for it. So it's fine. Just pile on. It's all good. I don't care. For 3 days later, I was having people LOLing at me. It's fine.
It's great. We love it.
Absolutely whatever.
We read everything.
On top of that, I love when Channel 7, the Sports Cave, friend of the show, Justin.
Did you see
Rose,
last week?
Yeah. Justin Rose sits there, hosts the show every single Sunday morning. I absolutely love it because a lot of times we're included in those tweets, and that says a lot about you guys out there.
Thank you so much.
You
Thank
guys
you.
are sitting there, and we try to put a quality show together for you. We try to be as interactive as possible with you, and we just want to give you guys the very best, and we appreciate you guys doing that.
And the funny part is people will ask, well, how do you get such an engaged audience? It's really simple. If you want to be tagged in something and you want to boost up your profile, we respond. We listen. We don't mind. We don't take ourselves super seriously. Adam will rip on the stuff that I post, or I'll laugh at the stuff that he posts. And the reason why I think that people will tag us in a lot of things with other people is that we will answer. We read everything, and they know that, okay, if I send a message to this guy and he's talking sports, he's not going to poo-poo me or make me feel bad. I'll disagree. I'll maybe send a sarcastic GIF, or I'll make a joke, or anything like that, but I don't block anybody. And I think that's what makes it fun, is that I cannot understand the whole concept of don't at me. Listen, if I put out a comment and you hate it, tell me. I don't care. I don't mind at all. But the thing I guess I would say is if we want to set a boundary is, don't insult me. Give me the reason why you disagree and tell me that, hey, like I had this one guy who was disagreeing with me saying that the manager doesn't do nothing in baseball. And I said to him, okay, I can understand. My stance is different. My stance is fire Osmus. He's not adding anything. So all I asked the fan, I said, I can understand there is a camp out there that says that managers really don't do a whole heck of a lot for a baseball team. And I said to him, look, tell me a little bit about what you think that Brad Osmus does to this team. Didn't answer, just wanted to insult me a little bit and say that I don't know anything about baseball. Okay, fine. If you don't think I know anything about baseball, all I ask is if I'm willing to ask you to educate me, fill me in a little bit, because look, I'm just a fan. Adam's a regular guy, a great sports journalist, but we're not know-it-alls. So if you have information that you want to share, you can insult me all you want. The proof is in the pudding. We got almost 41,000 followers because of the fact that we answer and that we are humble enough to ask questions. So, and
we'll be the first guys to tell you, like, hey,
we're wrong.
That's a great point. Didn't even think to look at it that way, or
exactly.
That thought never even crossed my mind. Or, hey, something I don't know, that's outstanding. Let's have a conversation about it.
The recipe's not that difficult. Message us anytime, and we always give thanks. And it made talking about the Tigers the last week really fun, because we're getting the sense of what people are looking at and where they're taking their thoughts. And to jump into the Tigers, I guess the question that people are having, Cuz, is that they're curious about this rebuild. They're curious about how are we going to get rid of our high-priced players. And the great part about doing the podcast was, when Buster Olney came out and said that, the Tigers might be willing to get rid of JV or other players just to get salary cap relief. If you listen to Tuesday's podcast, I said that. It was simple because this isn't really news. The Tigers are trying to get fiscally responsible, and this is why you're seeing players being traded. But I do respect the debate with those that are saying, look, get prospects. I just don't think that that's where the Tigers are at. They're trying to I got to get my books to within $140 million. And right now, prospects are not the thing that we're looking at the top of our list. And I'm not mad at it. I don't find that to be objectionable at all, because as a business owner, I understand the concept of balancing your books. And you don't get to become a billionaire by losing $50 million every year. That doesn't work. And yes, the fans in the past were conditioned with Mike Ilitch, where he was just like, spend. But Mike Ilitch is not the owner anymore. It's Chris Ilitch, and Chris Ilitch, as a longtime businessman, is trying to get the books in order. And that's where it's at. I can understand where fans are like, no, get prospects. The reason why I'm not angry is because of the fact, if the Tigers suck for the next 5 years, yes, many will say, look, it could be a 20-year problem if you don't get the idea or get players to fix it. But I look at it as, what are we asking for the Red Wings? What are we asking for the Pistons? What are we asking for the Tigers? Tank. They can't come out and say, look, guys, we're going to tank for the next 5 years. I can understand those that are questioning if Al Avila is the right man to lead the ship. But at the same time, where we're at now, the Tigers are going in the direction of sucking. Finally, we said this 2 years ago when everybody would play the buy-sell game. I said sell. And people would laugh at me and say, why are you saying sell now when they can compete? Because now, when you're actually going to try and sell, you're bargaining from a position of weakness. And unfortunately, that's where Al Avila has messed up. But for me, if you let go of JV, you let go of Kinsler, and they come back and say, look, they're just going to pay the salaries and we're not going to get that much back, I'm fine with it. No problems.
I have a little bit of an issue with that.
Why?
And earlier today, I was at the gym and I was finishing up and I was looking in the mirror at myself, just marveling at all that is me and just the sweaty goodness that I have with my rips and my cuts just running down my arms. And,
you're gay.
Shoulders. Well, that's how you feel. Anyways, so that was a great drop. Anyways, I was sitting there and I was like, you know what? You were ahead of the curve by about 2 years. You were ahead of the curve by about 2 years. And I was like, this is going to be painful and this is going to be brutal. And they probably should have ripped the Band-Aid off 2 years ago, like you said. And all this is basically based off of what has come out from Anthony Fennick of the Detroit Free Press, basically saying that, look, the Tigers are willing to pick up some of Justin Verlander's salary, but only about $12 million. On top of that, the Tigers are kicking around the idea of trading Michael Fulmer if somebody's willing to pick up Jordan Zimmerman's contract. So this is just a salary dump, which makes this whole trade deadline very, very scary and very, very uncomfortable because you do have some pieces and you do have some guys that could sit there and generate a little bit of a haul, maybe get you some prospects, but it just sounds like the Tigers just want to axe salary any way that they can chop it off the books. And I think it's a horrible way to do business because you're not setting yourself up to succeed in the future. And if you really want a ball club to be profitable in the future, you want this team to be good, winning cures all. We've discussed this before with the Lions. You know, there were games there when we first started this podcast that the Lions couldn't sell out and wouldn't be on TV. And it was because they were so bad. You start winning some games, you put together some seasons maybe where you make a playoff run or at least you're in contention. Next thing you know, Ford Field's sold out every single game. People are rowdy. People are crazy. Nothing has sent chills down my spine more than that game against Chicago when Javid Best sat there and broke off that run and took it to the house. Leaving that night, that building, I was like, oh my God, we're 5-0. We're 5-0. I was stunned. I was shocked. I was on cloud 9 for 24 hours. It was like the winningest hangover I've ever had. They came down to earth a little bit later on that season. Actually, the very next week they came back down to earth. But that being said, winning cures all. So if you're going to be a good program and you're going to have a good team and you're going to want to be successful, you got to sit there and trade your pieces, cut some of that salary, get some prospects back in return. Don't just blow these guys out just because you need to move some money off the books.
Okay, but when we talk about prospects and when you read and when you explore what other teams are doing, yes, people are looking at what the White Sox did, but their contracts were a lot easier to move. It's not the same. What's happening is Al Avila's getting punished for giving out these awful contracts to Jordan Zimmerman, to now the contracts of Verlander, Miggy kind of being prohibitive. Those contracts weren't so bad to give out, but some of the contracts that Al Avila has given out to Pelfrey, Lowe, Zimmerman are a problem, and you're getting punished for it. But the way I want to conceptualize it is, what do people say when they go, oh, you're going to get prospects? Half of them don't even make it. Half of them don't even come up and do squat. So the Tigers aren't going to come out and say that. But what I think is happening, and what if you were to have Al Avila here, he'll sit here and say, look, yes, there might be a couple lean years in the next 2 or 3 years. We don't want to build through prospects. Everyone says and everyone knows that prospects are hit or miss. They're not something that many organizations value because they ship them off quickly. The Tigers have did it. Dave Dombrowski
was the master at it.
He would hype up his prospects and then ship them off, and they never really
Whatever
turned
happened
out.
to Jacob Turner?
Nothing.
Anything?
Exactly. So the way I think they would say, and what the organizational stance would be, is, look, if we have some lean years, now we can build through the draft. And then we could get a prospect here or there and hope they hit. So I think the goal number one is to get in the line with with the salary. And you got also to remember that Al Avila can't come out and say, no general manager wants to be a seller. He wants to take the checkbook, write it, and go forward. But at the same time, you understand, I understand, it's quite obvious Chris Ilitch has come down and said, this is your number. Don't call it selling off. Figure out a way to sell this properly. This is the budget, and you and I can understand that, trying to run a network where we don't want to have that many bills. You and I haggle over, expenses all the time, and I love it because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to say, look, watch the expenses, bring in more. We just had a
debate the other day.
Exactly. That's the whole purpose of running a business, which is you have expenses and you have funds coming in. Chris Ilitch has told Avila, this is the number I need, because if I'm going to sell my team and get $3.5–4 billion out of this, I want the next guy to come in with some clean books. That's what it is. So you, as a fan, you can be mad, but prospects really don't mean shit. I mean, you can get 20 of them and hope 7 hit, but I think organizationally they're looking at a different stance in terms of, look, who are the names that are being talked about? Faedo, Manning, Burrows. All those guys weren't brought here in trades. They're prospects that were drafted by the Tigers. So that's why I'm not offended. I'm not hurt. I don't care. I know people will say, who cares how an owner spends money? You can't bury your head in the sand and say, you know what? I'm going to spend Chris Ilitch's money. No, the market dictates where if the Tigers are going to bring in 2 million fans a year, your payroll can't be 200 million. It's got to be 140. And now you're seeing the correction. You called it 3 years ago in an article that this can't be sustained. So I said that, okay, when you gave me the information that this can't be sustained, you got to start the process sooner. Unfortunately, the Tigers are now at the time where we're going to talk about, Verlander, Kinsler, Justin Wilson, Alex Avila, Iglesias, and we'll spend some time just kind of bantering regarding who should go and who do you think is going to end up here. But for me, where I stand, I'm not surprised that this is happening. I'm not offended. I'm not hurt at all. The selling process has begun. But I think fans and some other people looking at this are getting all hurt because, yes, it sucks to get rid of Verlander for nothing. It sucks. But unfortunately, so does laying people off. So does cutting costs, trimming the fat, however you want to describe it. It sucks. Nobody likes it. I'm looking at it. It was a great 10-year run. Yeah, you could have got more for Verlander, more for other pieces. But when you decide to maybe extend it 2 more years than you needed to, this is what happens. You're selling from a position of weakness. And that's Al Avila's problem, is that everybody else is dealing from a position of strength, knowing that, I'm just going to wait you out. Now we're at the deadline, and now you're going to see what Al Avila is going to do. And you're going to probably get rid of salary. One guy, I would believe, is probably Kinsler, is a guy that you might not get what you would consider value. Verlander, maybe they'll keep. Others, maybe they'll keep as well. But I don't see them standing pat. Unfortunately, it hurts. It hurts to rip the Band-Aid off, but let it rip. It's going to hurt for a while, but I don't see the anger, and I don't see why people are angry over prospects. They're just pawns in the grand scheme of chess. Pawns.
See, I'm not upset about them getting prospects back. I think they need to get these prospects in here, and the reason I say that is, again, this is all about getting the books righted, because
Yes.
Mr. I spent way too much money for way too long of a period and basically has overextended this ball club.
Yeah, and we owe him a great deal of thanks for losing money running the Tigers to give us what we would call entertaining baseball.
To sit there and be able to make it to the World Series and
I wouldn't
have
have
a shot at winning an actual championship.
I wouldn't have did it every single year. My head would have exploded if we would have lost $35 million running the Tigers. Even if even if I had $500 billion in the bank. If I'm starting to go through my businesses and the podcast made this much money, the pizza made this much money, the Tigers lost $35 million. Whoa. We look at that and go, stop that. Make it turn around where if we break even at best, I'll take it. But we can't lose $30 million on no businessman, nobody who runs a business, when they see negative $35 million every year, wants to keep that going. Sorry.
And I agree with that. But I think it's short-sighted to sit there and just dump these guys just to sit there and save salary, because what you're doing is you're not playing for the future. You're not looking out for the future. The way that good teams can sit there and prolong what they've got going on, and a good way to sit there and be able to keep your books in line in the future,
right,
is to get the young prospects that some of them hopefully turn out. Look, most of them don't. Right. And that's one of the things. A lot of times it's like taking stuff, throwing it against the wall, and hoping something sticks. And that's the way it works with prospects.
And I think why you're angry, and I think you're now saying it, I want you to listen clearly. Chris Ilitch, exactly, at this point in time, sitting at his chair with his feet up, looking at the books, talking to the accountants, doesn't care about the next 5 years.
No, he doesn't. Here's the thing. Do you think he's getting everything in order to sell the team?
Yes. You know the numbers that are being bantered about? The Marlins went for billions. The investment that the Ilitch has made versus what's going to be returned in a sale, you're talking about $2 to $3 billion. So yes, I think that the rumors that are swirling are that the Ilitches want to focus on hockey, focus on the district, and they want to let's open up the numbers, let's get this company in order so that when either Gilbert or Goris or somebody wants to come in and buy, that they start fresh, the numbers look nice and clean for the next 5 years. And so you're absolutely right. This doesn't look good for the long-term nature of baseball. What this is looking towards is the preparation for a sale. And this is what a business has to do, is Chris Ilitch cares about getting the books in order and stopping the loss. Because if the company loses $30 million this year, $30 million next year, guess what? when the next owner comes in and goes, whoa, oh, you're losing $30 million this year, you're projected to lose 40 next year, and you're going to keep losing 50, he's going to go, instead of offering $2.2 billion, I think I'm going to offer $1 billion.
But don't you think that it's much easier to sell a team if you've got a guy like we'll just say luck shines on the Tigers and they're able to find a young Mike Trout. You have a stud prospect like a young Mike Trout, and you can sit there and you can point to that like that's going to be the face of your organization for the next 15 years. There's your guy.
That puts
so you can sit there and you can build around that.
That puts 30,000 in the seats every day. But what I'm talking about is Chris Ilitch is looking like, okay, what's the maximum value I can get for my team? And maximum value doesn't come where you're losing money every single year.
And
Chris Ilitch doesn't care about that.
And I totally get that.
I'm sorry, everyone has to hear that. Chris Ilitch doesn't care about the Tigers in 2022. He doesn't care.
I just think I think it helps your team if you're on the verge of actually being able to do something, or you've got something kind of in the pipeline to say, you can sit there and you can package that up to somebody.
Fulmer.
There's talks about moving him, but you got to take a bad contract.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's tough, man. It's really tough in that this week we all thought, and I think that's true when we look around the landscape, you see the White Sox, you see other teams like Houston, Kansas City, they've rebuilt and they got players and they had a trajectory. The Tigers, unfortunately, are not on that same trajectory because, unfortunately,
look at the Cubs, look at the Royals, look at a team like Houston. Houston has been basically built from within, making smart trades, doing things well in the draft. Same thing with the Cubs, same thing with the Royals. And all those guys eventually pan out, and you sit there and you play to a World Series. I mean, Houston's on the verge of doing that this year.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that's not how. I think that really, in the end, if the team is sold, I'm probably thinking that Al Avila is not going to be the guy that's going to be in charge of the rebuild.
Oh, I don't think so either.
He's in charge of the teardown, and he's going to get fired.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's let go after this year.
No doubt about it.
It wouldn't blow my mind at all.
Wouldn't blow my mind at all. Okay, let's talk about the names and some rumors. It's already been talked about on Wednesday. The Dodgers, I think, pulled their name out of the hat, out of the running for Justin Verlander.
I think a lot of that had to do with the Tigers not willing to pick up more of the contract. At this point, Verlander's owed $12 million.
Yep.
On top of that, he's got another $56 million coming over the next 2 years with a $20 million vesting option in 2010 or 2020. So
it looks like, don't you think?
That's a lot of money for a guy.
It's leaning toward maybe JV being here, or maybe the only club that might take a swing is the Houston Astros if they want to make a solid move to win the World Series.
I think the Cubs as well.
Okay.
Cubs released a little something a little bit ago stating that they're still interested. And look, the whole deal with the Cubs is they're willing to pick up the entire contract, but you're not going to get a top-tier prospect out of the deal. So I don't like this move because it only provides some salary cap relief. And it only provides some relief to get the books in order here. If they're lucky, they might get a guy in return, like a Brendan Little. He was just recently drafted. The guy projects to maybe be a mid-level prospect if you're lucky. So it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot there. Now, as far as the Houston Astros go, I think this makes a ton of sense because Houston's looking to upgrade their pitching. They also want to
swing for the fences, baby. Go get it.
They're making a move to make it into the playoffs. They have a top 5 to top 10 minor league system, depending on who you want to go with. They're also probably looking to add Justin Wilson to help bolster that bullpen as well. And if that's the case, this is where I kind of see differently with whatever Chris Ilitch wants to do and kind of what you're talking about. If this is the case, right, you're going to get rid of a guy who is a Cy Young winner, a guy who was who should have won the Cy Young last year, so he should have been a 2-time Cy Young winner, and you're going to get rid of one of the best arms coming out of a relief role with Justin Wilson this year. So there are guys out there you could possibly go get, like a Francis Marte, a Kyle Tucker, he's an outfielder. You can get another right-handed pitcher like a Franklin Perez, and you can get some of these guys in and maybe just kind of do a mix of top 100 guys, maybe mix with some mid-level prospects that Houston has. And again, Houston's sitting there. They're making a push this year. They've got World Series in their eyes. So this move makes a ton of sense to me. I could just see this happening. I could see them sitting there kind of maybe spinning a deal to get a guy like Franklin Perez, who's an A pitcher right now, so he's a few years away. Maybe getting another right-handed pitcher with David Paulino. And then you can sit there and mix in an outfielder like Ramon Laureano. He's a double-A mid-level prospect is the way where he projects. And I could just see that kind of helping the Tigers out in the long run here. You know, I mean, you've sat there, you've added a couple pieces to your minor league system, bolsters that. And look, these guys are a couple years away. You know, none of these guys are going to step in right away and immediately contribute. On top of that, you shed some salary. And if you're the Tigers, what I don't get is if you're sitting there and you're saying you're not willing to pick up any more than $12 million, which is what Verlander's owed on the rest of this contract. I don't understand what the difference between $12 million, $18 million, $20 million is. You know what I'm saying? If you're willing to pick up, I don't know, 30 to 40% of what he's owed on the dollar, you're still saving 60 to 70% on the dollar. Why not? That's more money for later on. That's getting your books in line. Sometimes you've got to eat a little bit of garbage to sit there and feast like a king. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Now, a player that hasn't been moved that I think should have been by now is Alex Avila. The problem is, even guys like Vito knew it. Everybody knew it, that there's such a thing, and there's a reason why there's such things as advanced analytics. Okay, the reason why that they're there is it helps you project a little bit what the player eventually is going to look like at the end of the year. Alex Avila was no hotter than 2 or 3 weeks ago when he was cranking home runs. He was healthy. He was batting over 320. Make the move. Sometimes you got to recognize when the market's hot, when you have an opportunity to sell an asset. So now you waited, and unfortunately now what's happened? Alex Avila has regressed, and he's coming back down to the numbers that people thought he would. Under 300 a little bit in the month of June. He hasn't been productive. People are saying, guys like Vito, when he went on and talked on the radio shows, would say, look, yes, I know you're excited that Avila's doing great. Alex Avila was a great addition this year in the offseason, probably the only great addition this year that general manager Avila had to make. And many people don't even give him credit because it doesn't take much to recruit your son back to a team he was already on. So I can understand that. But at the same time, now that he's regressed and he's coming up to bat and he's not getting hits, he lost value. And unfortunately, you look at it and you say, great. Do the Cubs still have interest in him? That's probably the logical landing place for him, and I think the move will be done. But again, I think you could have got more had you moved him and maybe played a little bit of the hurry-up game with the Cubs and say, look, we got another offer from the Astros, we got another offer from another team. Make the move today or we got to move on. Unfortunately, now Alex Avila is regressed, and it stinks because I think you could have got more for him a couple weeks back.
And I think you're absolutely right. Look, the Cubs would probably be the team where it'd make the most sense for Alex Avila to go. They need some depth at catcher. We talked about this before on a couple different podcasts. And the issue is the haul's not going to be massive here because he's a rental player. On top of that, like you said, his stats are declining. You can maybe look to get a double-A mid-level prospect, maybe like a Trevor Clifton. He's a right-handed pitcher. You could maybe get an Oscar De La Cruz. He's a top 100 guy, but he's still in single A. So he's got a couple years. You're not going to get a lot back. It'll maybe be one guy. It might be a combination of some lower level type of players that you'll get in return for him. But if there's one club out there that makes the most sense for Alex Avila at this point, it would be the Cubs.
Now, what are your thoughts about Ian Kinsler? Because of the fact that he's owed a lot of money next year, I think that if you're logically going to start pairing people, one of the people that you probably could pair with Ian Kinsler to make a move is Justin Wilson. And there's some talk and speculation that the Brewers might get in the mix here and take a look at Justin Verlander, might take a look at Kinsler and Justin Wilson. It just seems like it's a natural fit that Justin Wilson and Ian Kinsler can be paired together. A nice young upstart catcher that's probably in the next 5 years going to take off and be a productive left-hander who really dominates against right-handed batters. You don't see that in Major League Baseball at a clip that Justin Wilson is performing at. And Ian Kinsler is a contract that's really high that can be productive for another team. If that move is available to the Brewers, I kind of hope they make it.
I think this move makes a lot of sense. And again, Justin Wilson is the score here. Ian Kinsler comes in.
Is the add-on.
Yeah, he helps out. The thing is, Ian Kinsler has a no-trade clause, and he basically said he would not take a trade unless there was some type of an extension included. So Ian Kinsler, if he's going to be traded, he knows about it, and him and his agent are kind of working through whatever the extension would be. But again, I think this makes sense because the Brewers, they're sitting there, they're battling for that playoff spot, they're fighting with the Cubs, and they have a shot to make the playoffs, but they really want to upgrade their bullpen. So that helps by getting Justin Wilson in there. Also, second base needs some help this season. You can sit there and you can add a guy like an Ian Kinsler. He's reliable in the field. He does have power. He can hit for average. He can do everything that you need a second baseman to do. On top of that, he brings some leadership to that ball club. Also, The Brewers have a top 5 minor league system, so who does that bode well for? That bodes well for the Tigers if Al Avila can sit there and somehow pilfer something away from the Brewers. And the Brewers have a couple guys that you can sit there and add to their ball club. They have a right-handed pitcher who's now on the DL, but he's major league ready, and that's Brandon Woodruff, so you can add him. Maybe a right-handed pitcher like Freddie Peralta. He's an A-level prospect, projects to be a mid-level guy. If Al Avila's got some Jedi mind tricks, maybe you can get an outfielder like a Corey Ray. He's an A-level prospect who projects to be a top 100 guy. Also, they have Luis Ortiz, who's another right-handed pitcher. He's in Double-A right now, and he's a top 100 guy who can sit there. And any combination of these guys can come in and help bolster this minor league system that the Tigers have that has basically been floundering forever. And again, some of these guys aren't going to pan out right away. Some of these guys are going to be in the minor leagues for at least another 2, maybe 3 years, and then they'll get their call up and you can kind of see what they're going to do. But I think this makes some sense because you can move a contract like Kinsler. You're going to end up losing Justin Wilson, which sucks. But in the end, you're going to get some guys back in return who I think can help you out in the long run. Tigers, it's going to be bad for the next couple years. So
it's going to be bad.
Why not get a couple guys who you can sit there and develop, and hopefully they pan out?
I think for the most part, people that support us and the talk around the water cooler indicates to us that outside of Michael Fulmer, nobody's really attached to anybody else on the team. They just want value. They want to see and agree with the plan. And I just don't think the majority of our supporters are going to be happy July 31st, 4 o'clock. It might be a situation where you might make just one more move, or it might be a situation where you make a handful of moves, pairing guys together, where the number one thing that you see is a decline in salary. So I don't see a spectacular trade similar to what we got for David Price, where everyone was just like, holy shit, look what we got. We got 3 pitchers potentially. I don't see that in this crop of trades that are going to be made. I think what you're going to be seeing a lot of is a lot of debate. Whereas you got maybe one group of people that are thrilled, like, look, this is the direction that you should be going in. And you're going to have another group of people that are going to be like, what the heck is going on? So outside of polarizing, I don't see where the Tigers come out win-win in the next 7 days. They just got to weather the storm. It's going to get bumpy.
And I don't trust Al Avila to sit there and make
trusts
these
Al Avila,
trades.
exactly. So it's one of those things where you can talk about it, debate it. It's good. It's interesting in that people are still invested. They're not apathetic in the team, but more and more people. I went to Comerica on Tuesday at the level of legroom that was there in the 29th row, watching the game. By the time the 9th inning hit, 5-6 rows of people got up and left. Nobody believed that they could even come back, only being down 2 runs. And the mental error by Mikey Matuk to answer the supporter who tells me that the manager doesn't do much. When Mikey Matuk gets thrown out at first base, with 1 out, and it prevents Justin Upton from making it a 3-2 game, what did everybody call it? A mental error. Who's responsible for the mental error? You can say it's Mikey Matuk's fault, but when it happens for the better part of 4 years now, and you say, why hasn't it been corrected? Look, you don't have to have the most talented team, and nobody's going to argue that Brad Ausmus this year has been given a plethora of supreme talent. All that you can ask for is limit the mental mistakes. What do we see 4 or 5 times a week? Mental mistakes, laziness, really poor defensive play. If you tell me the manager doesn't do nothing, why have a manager? Why pay him? Let the player just go out there and play the game of baseball for 9 innings. The manager has culpability in what Mikey Matuk did, and that's Ausmus's fault. Not particularly that one instance, but when you see it over and over and over and over in the course of the time that Ausmus has been here, you have to pin the blame and give the culpability to Brad Ausmus. This is a team that's mentally lazy and doesn't play sound defensively at a consistent enough clip to be a winning ball club. That reflects on Brad Ausmus. It's his fault. That's what he should be doing. That's what he should be correcting. And so, hey, what did I tell you 3 years ago? The best time to watch sporting events in town is when the teams blow. Great ticket price, great atmosphere, not a lot of fans breathing down my neck. I had a good time watching Fulmer pitch. I didn't get to my seat by the time he gave up the first home run, but at the same time, it was enjoyable. When you're not, only 27,000 people on a Tuesday, I had a good time. And you know what? Unfortunately, I was telling my buddy, I was like, look, I said it, and I've said it before. The best time to watch sports in town is when the teams blow. And it sucks to say that, but the Tigers blow.
Yeah, they're brutal right now.
All right.
It's like, I'm not even interested. I'm going to the game on Sunday or on Saturday, And look, I'm going to watch the Houston Astros. That's who I'm going to watch.
Yeah,
you know,
potentially a potential AL pennant winning team you could check out and definitely give us a report back next week. All right, let's take our first time out, come back, play a round of Jock Jams, and we will finish out this podcast with the Doc and Jock Pro Wrestling Report. Stay with us. You're listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc and Jock want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic. When Adam and I were first starting this project, we were looking for a place to host all of our recorded audio. And thank goodness we found Podomatic. We've recorded 500 to 600 podcasts. Now we're doing about 6 every single week. And we've only placed our shows at one location, Podomatic.com. If you're looking to start a brand new project, why should you use Podomatic? Very easy to use. Adam started a new project, a new podcast that airs each and every Friday on this network, and it's very easy to record your audio and upload it to one place to generate a link so that all your supporters can find it. Podomatic has been great to us. They got great services. They've been around since 2005, and they're not going anywhere. If you're looking for a great host site to host your recorded audio, we recommend one place and one place only, Podomatic.com. Thank you for finding our podcast across the various platforms. Anywhere really that you can find podcasts, you can find the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Like we've said 3 years ago when we started this bad boy, we wanted to be like a virus that just spreads all over. And we're getting closer and closer to calling it an epidemic. But we're the best virus that you can find in town. And we thank you for downloading and listening to all the great audio that we provide. And this segment is called Jock Jams. We got a lot to delve into regarding national sports and things going on around town in what we call Jock Jams. All right, cuz, fascinating news that continues to evolve and come out regarding the NBA. We're 6 weeks out of the season ending, and news is being broken every single day. And when you have a superstar team like the Cavaliers, and they're going to implode, unbelievable. And people are digging into it and looking at, why would a guy like Kyrie Irving go to management and say, I want to be traded off of a team that's a perennial Eastern Conference winner? Then everybody goes, and I said it too, I'm like, damn, Kyrie Irving's on the market? We got Reggie Jackson. Kyrie Irving, better than Reggie Jackson. Let's just trade Andre Drummond. Let's find a way to trade 2, 3, 4 first-round picks. Should the Pistons look into trading for Kyrie Irving now that he's all pissed off and butthurt?
I think they should look into it. However, I think it's very unlikely that they do.
Oh,
all right, and let's work this by contract, okay? Kyrie Irving signed for the next 2 seasons, all right, and he's at a very affordable deal, roughly $20 million and a little over $21 million for 18, 19, 19, 20, all right? So that being said, if you're the Pistons, you're going to have to sit there, you're going to have to package a couple guys, and you tell me if these guys sound like they're worth it, because the contracts kind of have to balance out in this deal. So we're going to sit there, we're going to package a guy like, I don't know, they need a point guard because we're trading point guards. So we're going to give you Reggie Jackson, who basically comes in at $16 million a year, and we'll give you Stanley Johnson, who comes in at just a little bit over $3 million a year. So now we're somewhere near 19. All right, so now we've got to sit there and we've got to find somebody else to try to offset a little bit of money here. That could really be anybody. Maybe Derek Willis. You say who? That's what I say. I don't know. It could be Henry Ellenson. If you want to do him, he's right there around $1.7 million, so it's a little bit over. I mean, does that get it done for you? If I was to give you Henry Ellenson, Reggie Jackson, and I was to give you Stanley Johnson, would that do it for you?
That's not enough.
No, exactly.
Unfortunately, people will say, look, it's fun to talk about, and we definitely entertained it. We entertained every single version of an offer. They should definitely pursue and see what it would take. It's just we don't have enough. We don't have enough to give Cleveland to entice them to trade within the division. And it's nice, though, that Goris and Gilbert have an open line of communication, being that they're business partners, maybe in the new MLS project. But at the same time, you look at it and you say, I don't think Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond, and first-round picks is enticing because, when you talk to people, they said, look, if Andre Drummond wasn't good enough to get DeMarcus Cousins, how the hell are you going to get Kyrie Irving? And it sucks in that you gotta ride it out, but it's definitely fun because I like it when, fans try to trade the ones that we hate for better players. I was like, yes, let's trade Boban and Andre and a first round pick for Kyrie Irving. They would laugh at you, when Cleveland heard that. But at the same time, you definitely got to pursue him because it does go to show you the fans still care. They want a superstar. They want a guy that can drop 40 points. He doesn't play any defense, but so what? He could drop 45 points a game. And
neither does Reggie.
Exactly.
What's the point?
And when you have a new arena that you want to sell out, a guy that can get his own shots and, be entertaining, I would take Kyrie Irving in a second. It's just unfortunate. The value that the Pistons have to trade isn't there.
They don't have anybody that you could give up that would even come close to being in the same realm as what you'd get for Kyrie Irving. And that's why this deal isn't going to work out. I mean, your big name player is Andre Drummond. That's your big guy, right?
Woo, joy, yay.
Exactly. In on the list of centers, he's maybe in the top 10, and we can sit there and we can pick his game apart, you know what I'm saying? And in the end, it's going to look like Swiss cheese because he's got so many holes in it. I mean, your next best guy on this team might be Tobias Harris. And the way the Pistons utilize him, he's a sixth man. So what are you actually giving up and what are you getting here? Kyrie Irving's not coming here for any package that you could even relevantly put together. And if you want to throw draft picks in there, it's not like you're a number one draft pick. You don't have that luxury. You'll probably be somewhere in the top 10 if you're really bad. Otherwise, maybe in the top 15. And that's about it. So that's not going to do it for Cleveland. You don't have enough to trade for the guy. I would love if he'd come here. I think it'd be great. I think him and Andre could sit there and they could work well. On top of it, he wants to have the ball. He wants to move the ball. He's a ball movement type point guard. I think it would work out perfect with what Stan Van likes to do. On top of it, he can hit the three. He'd be an ideal fit. He'd be a perfect piece here. It's just not going to work. You don't have enough to get him.
Now, you spoke on it earlier. Tomas Tatar kind of backtracked after he kind of spewed a little bit, vented his frustration at the negotiating process. He signed a deal, and it's for the next 4 years. You can give us the fine details of the signing. But Tomas Tatar will be a Red Wing for the next 4 years. Your thoughts?
So initially, I wasn't really happy. I'm still not really happy about it. It's a 4-year deal worth $21.2 million. It kind of breaks down to about $5.3 million for a cap hit. It's structured in such a way where the initial cap hit will the initial salary will be 4.875, 5.5, 5.5, and then it kind of bottoms out at 3.2 with a $1 million signing bonus in 2020, 2021. Now, the big issue I have with this is a player who originally was being reported that he was looking for somewhere near 5.1. Red Wings came in at, I think it was 4.2. So they were a little ways apart there. Next thing you know, it's being reported that he signs for 5.3. So why did it go up extra $0.2 million? And why is this player getting this much money? And I think this is a lot of money, especially in hockey. It's not like it is in baseball where there's no salary cap. Not like it is in basketball where you basically have to spend $90 million just to sit there and hit the basement of what the salary cap is. And it's not like football where you've got all this revenue that comes in from your television deal. Hockey's a totally different animal. So I don't like giving a player this much money, especially a player who I see has a lot of holes in his game. And my big issue is he's really hot and cold with his goal scoring. Now, he sits there and he'll lead your team in goals for the last 3 seasons, but he gets his goals in bunches. He'll sit there, he'll be really hot for 7 games, then he'll disappear for 10. And then when you really need a goal, you can't find him anywhere. And that's an issue that I have. I don't think you should be paying top tier money for a player like that. On top of that, he's usually a minus player, so he's not that good defensively. And what I got crushed for on Twitter, I think he has to do a better job, especially taking faceoffs. And I understand he's not a center. He doesn't take a lot of faceoffs, and I understand he probably doesn't really work on that part of his game all that much. But the thing is, if you're going to be out there, you're a top forward on this team. On this team, he is a top 5 forward. So he's playing on your first 2 lines. He's going to be out there on your power play unit. If for some reason somebody gets waved out of the dot, you've got to be able to step in. You've got to be able to win that draw. On top of that, I just don't think he scores enough to deserve that kind of money, and he doesn't create enough. I think he was 3rd on the team in points last season. He was a -8, and he sat there and he sucked up a large quantity of ice time. I don't think his production warrants that type of money. I would have went to arbitration. I would have let arbitration try to figure it out. And I know Tatar came out and said, look, if we go to arbitration, I'm not coming back. And I get that. But I'm going to go to arbitration. I'm going to let them sit there and tell me what you're worth, because they were basically $1 million apart. And $1 million is a lot of money. The one good thing I will say about this contract is Ken Holland didn't sit there and didn't offer this guy 7 years like he offered to Zetterberg, Datsuk. I think Abelkader's got a ridiculous contract like that where it's like 5 or 6 years. So it's only a 4-year deal, which works out great for him because he can sit there and he can cash in again at the age of 30 and at least get one more big payday out the deal. But I think it's too much money for the production that you're paying for.
Now, USA Today every year does their NFL predictions, and this year, when people saw the photo, I think people went apeshit. And USA Today does a good job in that they released, the results of what they did last year when they did the 2016 predictions. This year, they predicted that the Lions would finish tied for last place in the NFC North at 5-11, while the reporter, and there might have been some clickbait action when he had the New England Patriots going undefeated. What was your reaction when you saw that, and what do you think is more likely to happen? The Lions winning 5 games or the Patriots going undefeated in the regular season for the second time in damn near a decade?
I think there's a better possibility of the Patriots going undefeated. I don't believe that the Lions are only going to win 5 games. That's why. I think the Patriots will have a very good team. I just don't see them going undefeated. I think the Lions will sit there and they'll be a better than 5-11 team. Just kind of briefly looking at the schedule and seeing what they've got going on, they really need to survive their first 8 games. If they can survive their first 8 games, they're going to be in okay position. Yeah, it's a tough schedule. I just don't think that I think 5 games is selling this team way short. I think the additions that they've made on defense, I think they're going to be a little bit better. I think if you can get a healthy Ziggy Ansah again, if you can get a healthy Ziggy Ansah, that's going to make all the difference in the world. I think additionally, what you did in the draft by sitting there going out there, procuring a linebacker who's going to sit there and fill the middle of that defense, I think that's going to help. A guy who doesn't mind tackling, a guy who doesn't mind run stuffing, a guy who can sit there and track you down if you get by him in the second level. I think that helps this team that much more. On top of it, Darius Slay has continued to grow and evolve as a cornerback in this league, and he's a top 5 corner. And I think he's going to take another step in his maturity. Also, you factor in Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford wants a huge contract. That's why he hasn't signed one yet. Matt Stafford's sitting there, and he's basically playing for a contract this year. So he's looking to get paid. On top of that, you've upgraded that offensive line. Now, I know that Taylor Decker getting hurt kind of helps take you a step back, but you've upgraded that offensive line everywhere else. That should help the running game. I'm not 100% sold on this running game, but it should help the running game. And then I think you've got some wide receivers who are another year into this offense that Jim Bob Cooter's running, and I think that helps them out. Especially it's going to help out Marvin Jones. I expect him to take a step forward. He was kind of a disappointment last year. I just see this team being much better than only 5 wins. Patriots do have a shot of going undefeated, but I think Detroit has a better shot of winning more than 5 games.
In case you didn't know, the Big Ten is having their media days this week in Chicago, and everybody, of course, is going to look to see what Jim Harbaugh says when he speaks, what Mark D'Antonio says to address, their comeback efforts after a disastrous 2016 year. So obviously, we're going to peek into what they say in future episodes of the podcast, and definitely we'll find and have great discussions regarding previewing the upcoming college football year. But the big news that was made on Tuesday was Jim Harbaugh was asked, and I think it's a valid question, regarding who's going to be your quarterback to start this year. Many people are looking at Wilton Spate, John O'Korn, Brandon Peters, and they're going, okay, how long is it going to take for you to decide who's in the lead right now? Harbaugh spoke and answered honestly and said that right now at this point in time, everybody's even, and it's going to take about 8 to 15 practices to determine a winner. Do you buy that right now it's a dead heat between all the quarterbacks? And who do you think will be under center when Michigan takes on Florida to open the season?
I think it's all talk. I think everybody knows that it's going to be Wilton Spate who's going to be your quarterback.
It has to be, right? How would he lose the job?
If you remember what it was like when John O'Korn was quarterbacking last season, it was terrifying. If you were a Michigan fan, you were so upset to your stomach because he looked so uncomfortable. So, yeah, maybe another year in this offense, maybe something miraculous happens and he gets better, but I just don't see him improving that much, especially with Wilton Spate getting another year in this offense. So you have a quarterback who's sitting there continuing to evolve, and John O'Corn's going to sit there and jump him leaps and bounds. I don't see that happening. On top of that, Brandon Peters is a redshirt freshman. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see him sitting there getting much better than Wilton Speight. So I think Spate's going to be your quarterback when all is said and done. I think this is just Jim Harbaugh talking. Look, it made headlines. We're all talking about it. And the way he likes to run things is he likes to have open competitions. You know, he likes to sit there and tell all of his guys to be on edge. Everybody's sitting there battling for a job. Nobody is given anything. You have to earn it. And I think this just kind of goes and pushes everybody towards that. You got to keep on working, On top of it, if he sits there and he tells Wilton Speight and he tells John O'Corn and Brandon Peters, like, hey, you guys are in a dead heat for the starting job, that's going to force all of them to work that much harder. They want to be the starting quarterback. It's going to force them all to sit there and work on parts of their game and develop and try to strengthen whatever their weaknesses are. So I like it. I think it's good. I think it's a good motivational tool for the quarterback position on this team, because the quarterback on Michigan is going to have to take a huge step forward this year. You know, you don't have the wide receivers you had last year. Your running backs got some question marks. You lost a lot of players to the NFL draft, so there was some turnover there. So you're coming in with new guys along the offensive line. You're going to have different schemes that are going to be trying to run. This team is going to need a quarterback with a solid footing and a solid understanding of what is going to happen on this offense. And in the end, I think it's Wilton Speight.
2 quick bonus questions that I got for you. I got to get your insight regarding. You got about 5 minutes, so I definitely want to get your insight. Lucky Whitehead, Dallas Cowboys. I've never heard a story like this where a dude gets accused of stealing Twinkies and gets cut from a National Football League team. And then he comes out and is like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm already cut. I got fired. Basically getting fired on your day off. And he's like, I wasn't even in the state of Texas. It wasn't me. Someone stole my identity. You cut me. And he's got to be sitting there going, the team that I'm signed with keeps a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, keeps a guy like Michael Irvin and all the allegations that went on with him, keeps all these guys that are troublemakers, will bring in guys that have been accused and have done some nefarious things in their relationships with women. I get accused, let's just say I did it, of stealing a Twinkie for $2, and you cut me. And then it's wrong. Do you think this puts the Cowboys in the most unfavorable light of all time? Because you're saying that you will defend people that are really nefarious, and you cut a guy that didn't even commit the crime when it all shakes out? Craziness.
Does this surprise you? This is Jerry Jones' circus.
Craziness.
I think this is par for the course for Dallas Cowboys and for Dallas Cowboy fans. I think they're used to this by now. Look, if you're good at what you do and you provide some type of talent to the team, you're going to get kept. It doesn't matter what you do. You could basically go out there and be Leonard Little and kill somebody. We'll bring you back. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You could not be in the state, and you could have not have just stole some Twinkies, and you're getting cut. Do you know what I'm saying? It depends on what you bring to the team. I think it's a horrible look for the Dallas Cowboys, but I think they're used to it. This is what they do. This is how they are.
Now, last week you tweeted and you said that, look, anybody that didn't know what the act was with Hugh Freeze, Ole Miss, is basically burying their head in the sand. Me personally, I don't know anything about Hugh Freeze. I don't follow Ole Miss. I don't follow many of the SEC teams other than when the Big Ten teams go out and play them.
Do you not remember with the gas mask?
Yes, exactly. Now, obviously, we did notice that, Ole Miss as a program, when they got all these guys, we did say it on the podcast, like, okay, they're cheating, but we just moved on and said, okay, yeah, you don't get a number 1 recruiting class at Ole Miss without cheating, and we moved on. But for those that don't know, Hugh Freeze got caught using an Ole Miss company phone, dialing a 313 number that linked to a Florida escort service. And obviously he resigned because of the fact that when they went through the records, it wasn't the first time. Maybe that particular call that lasted a minute might have been a mistake. That's the spin that he's trying to. But I guess fill me in a little bit on Hugh Freeze, and I guess tell me why this character was a guy that was destined to be fired. And when the story broke, you weren't even surprised.
Well, the big deal was Hugh Freeze sat there and ended up blaming that call and that number on the old coaching staff. That was the big deal. So what ends up happening is the athletic director, Hugh Freeze, everybody's now pointing the finger at the old coach. The old coach comes out and is like, what are you talking about? That's not me. I wasn't even on. I didn't even make those calls. Look at the dates. So then the school starts its own investigation, and basically they uncover what this actually was. This was a phone number to a prostitute with a 313 number, which brings it kind of full circle back to Detroit. And they essentially were like, look, dude.
Detroit's back, baby. High quality escorts where coaches from national teams are calling. Detroit's back, baby.
So they were like, look, you obviously made this call. So then he had to fess up and say, yeah, I made that call. It was an accident. It was this. It was that. What ends up happening is now it becomes a culmination of sins that he's committed. You know, he sat there, lied on the old coach, then got caught. Now, there were some more improprieties with phone calls. If you remember when Kendiche was getting drafted, there was an investigation ongoing about him sitting there contacting recruits inappropriately and outside of their timeline, which is a huge issue. So you have recruiting violations there. You had other top-end talents that were being drafted or that were committing to Ole Miss and then being drafted to the NFL. And at what point does Ole Miss get top-end talent? Doesn't happen. Not in the SEC. Those guys are going to places like Alabama, Florida. Maybe they might go to Auburn. You know what I'm saying? There are LSU. There are other schools that top-end talent's going to. Ole Miss is not one of them. It just isn't. And for them, like you said, to pull in a number one recruiting class, you had to sit back and you had to scratch your head. And by the time all this plays out, I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, it doesn't surprise me. I'm not shocked at all. It doesn't, I don't know. I think if you would either have to be an Ole Miss fan or your head would have to have been buried in the sand for you to not realize that there might have been some improprieties going on at Ole Miss.
He gone. Good job, sir. Great round of Jock Jams. Our final timeout, we're going to come back with the Doc and Jock Pro-Wrestling Report. Lots to get to. A crazy week in wrestling. Recapping the pay-per-view, Raw, and SmackDown coming up next. If you've enjoyed the great podcast all this week, thank you so much for finding us. You can support us by visiting our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's where you go to find what shows air when. Each show can be streamed on demand 24/7 from our website. And if you like what you're listening to, the easy way to continue to support us is visit our website, click through that Amazon banner if you're going to do some online shopping. If you're going to go to any sporting events, check out the great deals through SeatGeek from our page, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can also see who's doing each show when, and we thank you for the continued support. That's how we've been able to record 6 to 7 podcasts every single week now for the better part of 4 years. Thank you for your continued support. The easiest way to support us, visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Well, at least all is right in the world because I was pissed after Sunday. I had never thought that I would watch a WWE pay-per-view in its entirety and think it was garbage, but the majority of Battleground was pretty bad, and I looked at it, and my review of it is real simple. It was a D-plus pay-per-view. I thought that you had title changes that didn't need to happen. It basically showed, and what I tweeted out was, in 2017, writers have not figured out how to properly end wrestling matches. I just thought that the pay-per-view altogether sucked. If you didn't, I mean, the Punjabi prison match was decent in that you had a swerve having the great Khali show up, but all in all, it was really tough, and many people thought that, and we said that. It's hard to view a wrestling match with the bamboo and the structure there. It made it difficult. And again, you had the same old swerve where the Singh brothers interfered. The Great Khali came and roughed up Randy Orton, which allowed Jinder Mahal to retain the title. Having AJ Styles lose that match, fine. You want to have Kevin Owens pin AJ Styles. You don't have a sequence where you go submission move, and Kevin Owens rolls up AJ Styles for a 1-2-3. It had no meaning and no purpose whatsoever. But
what was the point of the ref getting bumped?
Exactly.
By the way, Houston Nutt was the coach of Ole Miss. I'm sorry.
Yes. At the same time, you look at it and you go, okay, at the end of the week, now you look at it, AJ Styles is the United States champion after retaining on SmackDown. For me, I liked, prior to this week, the trajectory of the belt, the U.S. title belt. It's a prestigious belt that's been won by the likes of Lex Luger, Ric Flair, Sting. A lot of great wrestlers in WCW held that title, and John Cena elevated it in WWE. Now you got AJ Styles. I think you give him a year with the belt. No doubt about it. Why have it flip that quickly? And then if the
hot potato booking,
that's stupid.
Is not good.
Overall, if you missed Battleground, just read the recap. It wasn't that good. All in all, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens kind of fell flat to me, which I was surprised because of the fact that they've wrestled a bit now. They couldn't tell the same story. The Jinder Mahal match was okay, but all in all, there wasn't really much to pop about regarding Battleground. It just wasn't that good.
What was your favorite match overall?
I like the Jinder Mahal match. It was my favorite match. I mean, you had intrigue. I like Jinder Mahal and what he's doing. I liked the fact that they had the Great Khali show up, which was a complete surprise. And it was nice to see him. He looks very old and weathered a little bit, but it was cool to see a massive figure like that hold up Randy Orton and really help, because a guy like Jinder Mahal deserves a faction. Why not? A badass Indian faction in WWE. Why not?
Did you like that better than the New Day versus the Usos?
That was the match that most people thought was great to kick off the pay-per-view. But for me, the New Day, Usos, those are guys now that have been there for a while. I kind of want to see more along the lines of new tag teams, the Hype Brothers. I want to see great tag teams.
They keep dismantling all their tag teams.
Right. So to see the Usos and New Day, to see the New Day win a title, I mean, great. They had the title, part of their intro is the longest reigning tag team champions that they had the better part of all of 2016. So I would have actually liked the Usos to keep it and keep running with the heel turn.
Can you name 2 other tag teams on SmackDown right now?
Yeah, the Fashion File dudes.
Yeah.
And
you don't even know their real names, but okay.
Yeah, what do you call them? What are they called again now? Fresh memory.
It's Fandango. Breeze Dango. Tyler Breeze and Fandango.
Okay, and the guys that were featured in that profile, the Ascension.
Oh, okay. And where have the Ascension been?
Yeah, exactly.
Nowhere.
Yeah,
nowhere. So that's my point. Do you see how you kind of had a struggle and you don't even know these guys' names? That's how bad the tag team division is right now.
And then
absolutely brutal.
The women were okay. You just look at it and you say, is this the 8th time Natalya has been put in the #1 title spot where she's going to lose? You got to pay it off. I mean, it'll be worth it if Natalya finally gets the payoff and wins the title. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 times now where she's risen back up from the ashes of being, of the crew and been the #1 contender only to get squashed by the champ. So you got to pay it off and let her win at SummerSlam. You have to do it, even if it's just for a day. You got to let Natalya. You got to pay it off. I mean, how many times are you going to let her rise up to be the #1 contender? I was surprised she won it, but it was cool. It was okay match. Battleground, I rated it as D+. It was just a horrible pay-per-view.
Was that your least favorite match, the women's match?
The least favorite match, probably. I mean, I could say that nothing when I was watching it, I was like, unbelievable. What is going on with these endings? I mean,
it was like false finish. No,
actually,
and then it was like crappy finish.
My least favorite match is, it's nice to let Sami Zayn win a match on a pay-per-view. It's just I'm not invested in his character.
Well, here's the thing. They've done such a great job of breaking him down to where you don't care about his character.
I don't care about him.
And then I have no idea what they're doing with Mike and Maria. Like, I have no clue. Here's the thing. Mike Bennett was outstanding in ROH, and he was very good in Impact. All right? And Maria was even better. On top of it, she's really hot. So you can do something with those people, and yet they've done nothing but emasculate Mike Bennett, and Maria is just kind of there. It's been horrible booking after horrible booking after horrible booking, and now you sit there and you pair them with Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn was basically the get-over guy. Like, we have a new person. They've got to get over. All right, go have him beat Sami. So now Sami's racking up wins over Mike Bennett, which is fine, but you've got nothing going on. Like, what is the feud here? You've done a really bad job of booking this feud. It happened where Sami Zayn interrupted them twice, and then next thing you know, he gets hit over the head with a glass vase. Is that what we're doing here? Again, short-sighted booking, and we'll talk more about short-sighted booking with what's going on SmackDown here next week. But it's just, again, bad booking, and you always have to get your heels over. Your faces should be the one getting over, not your heels. They're heels. All they've got to do is do dirty tactics. You sit there, you cheat to win, and the crowd will either love you or hate you if you're a heel. It's just the way it is. You don't have to spend all that much time and energy getting the heels over. You've got to get your faces over. Yeah. And the faces never win. You've got two baby faces that have belts.
Yep.
Or maybe 3 now because AJ Styles just won again. So Makes no sense.
All right, before we get to Raw and SmackDown talk, you have here that you got a surprise to show me.
I do have a surprise for you.
Fill me in. I've been curious.
Let me go digging through my bag real quick. Hold on.
Let me tell you this, though, about surprises. I was really good not to ask about it. I was like, ooh, okay, is there some memorabilia? Did he get me presents? Did we got front row tickets to the 29th show, the last show with the Joe? What do you got to show me?
I don't have any tickets for you in
Brock Lesnar wrestling on Saturday.
There you go. All right, so my sister this past weekend went out garage sailing.
Nice.
And
I love garage sailing these days.
She loves it too. So she found this red binder. I'm showing this to you. It's a red vinyl binder.
Oh, nice.
And for $2, she got classic WWE Wrestling Card Collector's Album. And she was so excited because her brother, who she claims is 40, I'm not 40, but she claims my 40-year-old brother would love this. So I want you to take a look at this. This is going to bring you back to your childhood.
Oh, man, this is sweet, too. It's perfect. Oh, my God, this is sweet. $2?
$2.
This is awesome.
I was super pumped. It's basically every wrestler from the 80s.
They got cards. I never knew they had cards.
Yeah, I didn't know they had cards either.
This is badass.
If you flip to the very last page, you'll see on the back of the cards, it gives you information.
Earthquake, Texas tornado.
It gives you information about all of them.
Yes, this is awesome. It's like a series set.
Yeah,
nice.
Like, she did a real good job. For $2, is not bad.
Not bad at all.
I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I think it was pretty cool. It reminded me of the 80s and early 90s with WWE.
Yeah, you keep it at a table and you show it off. Dude, this is sweet.
Check the back page out, and you can see it tells you different stuff about their characters.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
That is awesome. This is pretty sweet. Yeah, at the end of the podcast, I'll definitely take a picture and feature this bad boy, maybe a quick 2-minute Twitter live. This is sweet.
So the cool thing was, well, I don't know if it was really cool or not.
Ricky Steamboat, Macho Man,
there and
Haku.
We went through and we seen who was alive and who was dead.
Yeah.
And mind you,
Kurt Angle,
80% of them
Big Boss Man,
dead.
General Adnan. Oh, man, this is sweet. Yeah, definitely just keep it. I like the fact you kept the price on there, though.
Yeah, well, you can do. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. She did a good job scoring that for me.
At the very least, you just turn around and flip it for $8.
Right.
I think it's worth at least 10.
I would think, right?
Yeah, it's nice memory.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, all those cards are from the late 80s, early 90s, so maybe they're worth something. I have no idea.
All right.
But I thought it was pretty cool, and it maybe help you reminisce a little bit.
Oh, dude, that is awesome. Raw was okay again with the formulaic, having all the contenders in the main event come out and talk. You said it. You called it. It's a fatal four-way at SummerSlam. You nailed it right on the head. I was just like, oh, he was right again. And I looked at it and I said, okay, it is what it is. It's a great way to keep the heat for Brock going if you have him lose. Whoever gets the belt, it'll be nice to see. But all the fatal four-way contestants deserve to be there. It'll be a great matchup. And it's just one for me. I'm just not a fan of personally having four guys battle. I think Brock Lesnar is a draw. Whoever you would have had come out there, it could have been Braun Strowman, could have been. I think it's lazy. I just think that
it is. It's more lazy booking, is what this is.
I think you could have had two great matchups if you wanted to continue having Roman Reigns fight Samoa Joe. You could have elevated. I felt like you could have elevated Braun Strowman to the main event picture, and then you could have had an under feud of continuing Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns, but they chose not to. I think that was a mistake. It didn't. Overall, Raw for me was okay. I felt like they did a good job continuing some storylines, but at the same time, the way I look at it is it just doesn't bring me enough heat to keep my attention over the Tigers or anything right now in terms of what's going on Raw. I felt, okay, going into SummerSlam, you're now establishing, Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt. You got Bayley taking on Alexa. You got the sort of tag team friendship of Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. You got the elevation of The Miz and his entourage. It's all great. It's just, for me, it's not juicy enough, not enough sexiness to bring me back. Even the debut of Jason Jordan wasn't all that great. I feel like the next time I'm going to pop for a Raw will be when Cena arrives.
Yeah, and you're probably right. And
nothing on Raw was
big
great.
Issue. That's a big issue with the way that they've got everything booked. Again, like you said, it's very formulaic. It's a lot of stuff is slowly moving a storyline along. It's like you can take a week or maybe two, maybe even a month off, come back, and you'll pick it right back up.
Yeah, no problem.
And the issue with the whole four-way, with the Fatal Four-Way is, yeah, it's a great way to keep all the wrestlers and all the competitors strong. But I think it speaks to a bigger problem. They don't want to put a belt on Samoa Joe, and I don't think they want to put a belt on Braun Strowman. Right. So you don't mind putting a belt on a guy who's never there with Brock Lesnar, and you really want to put a belt, and you want the fans to accept you putting the belt on Roman Reigns. And I think that's why this is lazy booking. Look, make the damn decision. You want to put the belt on Roman Reigns, so have Roman Reigns fight Brock Lesnar. You're the ones who painted yourself into this damn corner where you've got basically 4 guys who have a claim to the belt. Figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Just make a damn decision and go with it. Stop with this 50-50 booking and stop with this half-ass stuff where you're giving us half-concocted storylines. It's absolutely brutal, and I can't stand it.
Now you go to SmackDown, and their 2-hour show. Unfortunately, I missed it. Didn't get a chance to watch it because I was at the Tigers game. And, of course, Chris Jericho returns and makes everybody pop and lose their shit. It was great.
Jericho showed up, and he looked so good.
Awesome.
I sat there, and I was like, Chris effing Jericho. I was so... Like, do you realize... I realized this the other night. He is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
He's great.
And I absolutely love
He
Chris
can take
Jericho.
months off and come back, and he's a professional wrestler.
Do you realize
he's a superstar?
He's one of those guys who does what is best for business at all time. He is always thinking about what is best for business. I don't know if he'll be back on SmackDown for a little bit because I think he's still touring with Fozzy, but he wanted to show up, come, and he wanted to do the job.
Exactly.
That's what he wanted to do. He didn't want Kevin Owens to have to sit there and take the pin, and he wanted AJ Styles to win the belt. So he came in, and he was the sacrificial lamb. That was the whole deal. That was why he was there.
And it also ties into the fact that they had history going back to AJ Styles' first WrestleMania. So it plays into kind of wrapping up some more of the storyline if Chris Jericho wants to renew a feud with AJ Styles. So it's great all around. I thought that match was awesome.
If there's ever a guy who needs to be on the booking committee, it is Chris Jericho.
No doubt about it.
Because he does a great job with story. He was the linchpin of that entire story, and he was the linchpin of AJ Styles getting over and Kevin Owens not having to lose the belt.
I love the segment with Jinder Mahal coming out and being like, I need an opponent. And then the guy comes out, it's John Cena. I thought that was awesome. I popped for that.
Did you?
When I read it, I was like, sure, that's awesome. I think that Jinder Mahal has to be more forceful. And the way they played it off was perfect because now you can tease to the fans that maybe it might not be John Cena, but we all know it's going to be John Cena. And you give Nakamura a chance to kind of taste a little bit of success on his way to potential a feud with maybe AJ Styles.
I will tell you this much. I've never seen a crowd in so many months pop so hard for John Cena. It wasn't one of those 50-50 crowds. This crowd was so much behind John Cena. So if you're looking to maybe get a guy like John Cena over, because usually it's a 50-50 crowd, half of them love him, half of them hate him, these people were absolutely enamored with John Cena. They absolutely hate Jinder. So I think that's cool. I think it sucks for Nakamura, because Nakamura goes from having a really awful feud with Baron Corbin and not really being able to fulfill his potential to now going on, he's going to have to wrestle with John Cena. And I love John Cena, but John Cena is not very good in the ring.
Right.
You can get much more out of Nakamura with a guy who is decent in the ring,
Yes.
a guy like an AJ Styles.
Yes.
And he's going to now have to sit there and he's going to have to probably carry and then lay down for John Cena is how I'm seeing how this is going to work out.
Going back to Battleground, Nakamura versus Corbin, you have Corbin kick Nakamura in the nuts and it's a DQ after them blooding each other. It was a great, strong style fight. They looked good. It just seemed like they lacked some chemistry, but at the same time, that's not how you end it. You could have, Baron Corbin break the rules, use chairs, use a bunch of other things and things like that to, get the win. So it's just one of those things for John Cena. Coming off of a nice match versus Rusev, it had its ups and downs. It had a big spot, but it just seemed like it dragged on and on and on. It was a little bit too long of a match, in my opinion, is at Battleground. But
You want a hot take real quick?
Go ahead.
Maybe we'll get a fatal four-way at SummerSlam with Jinder, Cena, Nakamura, because Corbin's going to interfere.
There you go.
Cena, Nakamura.
No, God, you know what that would mean to me?
Maybe you get your fatal four-way.
Yeah, exactly. No, the way I would do it now, if we're going to play, quickly, if we're going to play Doc and Jock right for the WWE, I would do it this way. You have John Cena destroy Nakamura, and you go, okay, Nakamura is going to come back down a peg, and he's got to work his way back up. Now you go into SummerSlam, and everybody and their mama thinks it's going to be John Cena winning, walking away with the title. I think John Cena, if he's going to go away after SummerSlam, he's got to do the job, and you elevate Jinder Mahal by getting a clean, destructive victory versus John Cena. And then afterwards...
I think that would be awesome.
Yes, afterwards, maybe you even elevate Jinder Mahal's heel status by, after a tough matchup, he realizes, wow, John Cena, kicked out of all my moves. He held on to these submissions really long. You have Jinder Mahal hold up John Cena, get a pop, and then you clothesline his ass to get more of a heel reaction, and you destroy John Cena with the Singh brothers. You fling him out of the ring. You execute it similarly to what Kevin Owens did to Chris Jericho, in that you elevate Jinder Mahal as a badass mofo by destroying John Cena at SummerSlam when everybody thinks that Cena's going to win it. You got to elevate the guys, and that's why Cena's there. He's now a glorified enhancement talent where he's got cred, and he's there to elevate guys. How do you elevate Jinder Mahal? You you let him beat John Cena.
So then does Jinder then carry the belt to
Survivor
WrestleMania?
Series? Survivor Series is enough of a reign, and I want to see him then get into other type feuds with other people as well. But for a guy like Jinder Mahal to have maybe a 5-month reign, it's pretty fair.
Can we get you on the booking committee?
Of course, I'd be a great. The problem is though, the problem that I have is there's like 12 writers. And I would be like writer number 9. I'd work my way up to writer number 4. I'd start looking at what writers 1, 2, and 3 are doing. And when they come up with these stupid 12-minute promos, and I'd get mad and discouraged and be like, get me the fuck out of here. Be like, look, I want to be the number 1 guy. And I would make a power move and be like, look, all these 12 guys.
The number 1 guy is Vince.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be the
number one writer. I would say, look, you got 12 guys. You're probably paying them $50,000 each. That's $600,000. Pay me $150,000. And I'll do the job for everybody.
I'll do it all.
I'll write for 6 months, pay me $175 and a suite at WrestleMania, and I'll write you the script for the next 6 months, and then I'll sublet it to you, give you $75, and me and you will write together. That's it.
That'd be cool.
See,
we do a lot better job than whatever the hell they're doing.
See, that's the problem is it's PG and there's 12 writers. When you got that's what happens.
It's too many damn hands in the
too many hands in the bush. Too many hands in the cookie jar, too many people in the kitchen, and that's what happened. But the main event was awesome, a great match, great chemistry, AJ, Kevin Owens, Jericho. At the end of the day, AJ Styles is the champ. Let him be the champ for a year. My God, it's not that hard. U.S. Championship, let him fight anybody that... I mean, okay, we're going to do the AJ Styles challenge where it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
In 3 weeks, he said it.
What I don't understand, this goes back to the whole Charlotte Sasha thing where they played hot potato with the women's championship belt. It doesn't get anybody over, and you sitting there trading the belt back and forth, it lessens the value of the belt. Because it seems like at any week, you can't hang on to it because either A, you're not good enough, or B, the belt's not worth it enough.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to sit there and keep trading back and forth.
Quick news and notes. No Mercy, Little Caesars Arena, October 8th will be the first, I believe, pay-per-view that'll be shown at the new arena. No Mercy. SmackDown. I know that because people were talking about some of the upcoming events that have been booked. There's going to be a UFC in December. There's going to be a wrestling event. There's going to be a pay-per-view at Little Caesars Arena, October 8th. You heard it here on Doc and Jock. I'll definitely be there, especially if AJ Styles is going to wrestle. I'm not going to the event on Saturday. It's date night with the wife. I might, maybe 2%, buy the ticket because Brock Lesnar's going to be there. Jinder Mahal is going to fight. AJ Styles is fighting Kevin Owens again. I might do it, but it's just, a situation where there's a UFC card. And it's going to be off the chains. John Bones versus Daniel Cormier. I want to see that, and I don't want to tie up my night at the WWE when I've been to quite a bit of shows. So I think it's going to be a UFC night. Follow along on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Always a great chat. Damn, we talked for 90 minutes, and it just feels like we talked for a segment.
That's right, man. We just sit there, we come on, turn the mics on, and we just lay it down.
Lay down. So this podcast comes to a close. For Adam the Jock Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Episode 207 comes to a close. It was a great chat. Thank you, sir.
As always, go Al Avila. Don't screw this up for the Tigers.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk